The lights dimmed in the United Earth Defense Force Command Center as the main screen flickered to life. Commander Jack Reed looked up from his coffee, the bitter liquid forgotten as strange symbols scrolled across the display. "What am I looking at, Lieutenant?" Jack asked, his voice cutting through the sudden silence. Lieutenant Annabelle stood straight, her fingers still on the control panel. "Sir, all deep space monitoring stations just picked up this transmission. It's been repeating." For the last 20 minutes, Jack walked closer to the screen, his eyes narrowing. After decades of silence from the stars, something had finally reached Earth. Not the feared invasion, not the cold diplomatic greeting they had trained for, but something else entirely. "Is it artificial?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. The patterns were too perfect, too structured. "Yes, sir." "No doubt about it," Anna replied. "The math doesn't lie. These are not natural signals." The command center erupted into controlled chaos as specialists rushed to their stations. Humanity had prepared for first contact for over a century, building fleets, training soldiers, and drafting protocols for every possible scenario. No one had prepared for this. A distress call from the stars. "Sir, we've pinpointed the origin," said Officer Dave Wilson from the tracking station. "It's coming from the Tau Ceti system, about 12 light-years away." Jack nodded, his mind racing. "And the content, what are they saying?" The chief linguist, Dr. Maria Lopez, stepped forward, her tablet clutched tightly in her hands. "The mathematical structure suggests a universal distress pattern, Commander. Someone is calling for help." "You're certain?" Jack asked. "As certain as I can be," Maria replied. "The sequence repeats in prime numbers. It shows images of what appears to be a solar system under attack. And this symbol here," she pointed to a shape that pulsed red on the screen, "appears in the same context that we would use in SOS. Jack took a deep breath. First contact was happening, but not as anyone had expected. Humanity, classified as a Class 12 Death World species by their own scientists, had evolved on a planet that wanted to kill them. Gravity too strong, weather too extreme, predators too many, and bacteria too hungry. Earth had forged humans into survivors, into fighters, and now someone among the stars needed that fighting spirit. "Get Admiral Grant," Jack ordered. "Wake him if you have to." 10 minutes later, Admiral Tom Grant strode into the command center. His gray hair was disheveled, but his eyes were alert and focused. At 62, he had seen humanity through the Mars Rebellion and the Europa Crisis. Now he faced something much bigger. "Show me," was all he said. Jack nodded to Anna, who replayed the transmission. The Admiral watched in silence, his weathered face giving nothing away. When the message ended, he turned to the room. "Opinions?" "It could be a trap," said Security Chief Paul Brown, voicing what many were thinking. "Lure us in with a cry for help, then ambush our ships. Or it could be exactly what it seems," Jack countered. "Someone in trouble asking for help." Admiral Grant nodded. "Both possibilities need to be considered. Dr. Lopez, your linguistic team is certain this is a distress call?" Maria stepped forward again. "As certain as we can be without direct translation, sir. The mathematical pattern is universal: distress, danger, help needed." The Admiral walked to the window, looking up at the night sky where stars twinkled, innocently hiding their secrets. 12 light-years. The signal has been traveling for 12 years. "May already be too late," someone muttered. Grant turned, back to face them. "Perhaps. But that's not how we operate. Throughout human history, when someone calls for help, we answer. It's what separates us from the predators of our world." He walked to the central command table, pressing his palm against the scanner. The table lit up with the deployment grid, showing Earth's defense fleet in orbit. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm calling an emergency session of the World Defense Council, but make no mistake." His eyes swept the room. "I will recommend immediate response. If there's someone out there in trouble, there's only one possible action for humanity to take." The room fell silent as Admiral Grant's weathered hand hovered over the emergency deployment console. "Prepare the fleet." 6 hours later, the World Defense Council chamber was packed. Representatives from all Earth nations and colony worlds sat, intense silence as Admiral Grant finished his presentation. The signal continues unabated, he concluded. Our best analysts confirm it is a distress call from an intelligent non-human source. World President Laura Kim leaned forward. And you're recommending we send our fleet? Not just an exploratory mission, but the full defense force? Yes, Madam President, Grant replied firmly. Humanity has never ignored a cry for help, not when we have the means to respond. We built this fleet to protect ourselves, but protection sometimes means going to meet the threat before it reaches our doorstep. Or to save those who cannot save themselves, added the representative from the Mars colonies, his voice steady, through the comlink. The council chamber buzzed with whispered conversations. Earth had united after decades of conflict, forging a peace built on the shared dream of reaching the stars. Now, their first step into the galactic community would be as saviors, or perhaps as fools rushing into danger. President Kim called for the vote. One by one, the representatives cast their decisions. The outcome was clear before the final vote was tallied. The motion passes, President Kim announced. Operation Helping Hand is approved. Admiral Grant, you have your orders. Grant nodded, solemnly. Thank you, Madam President. Humanity will answer this call. As the council dispersed, Jack found himself standing next to the Admiral near the massive window overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. Do you think we're doing the right thing, sir? Jack asked quietly. Admiral Grant's eyes remained fixed on the horizon, where the first rays of dawn painted the sky in gold and red. I don't know if it's right in the cosmic sense, Commander, but I know it's human. When someone calls for help, we go. It's what we've always done. He turned to Jack, his face set with determination. Send the order, Commander. I want every ship ready for deep space deployment within 48 hours. Jack saluted. Yes, sir. As Jack left to execute the order, Admiral Grant looked once more at the brightening sky. Somewhere out there, 12 light years away, someone was in trouble, and humanity was coming. Launch the fleet, he whispered to himself. Launch the fleet. The massive orbital shipyards above Earth glowed like a second moon. Thousands of workers in spacesuits moved between the enormous vessels, their jetpacks leaving brief trails of light. Every ship in the United Earth Defense Force was being prepared for the longest journey humans had ever attempted. Captain Lisa Morgan stood at the viewport of Orbital Station Alpha, watching the activity with a mix of pride and worry. Her ship, the UES Mercy, floated in the center of the assembly area. The Mercy was no ordinary vessel. 3 miles long and shaped like a giant white cross, it was the largest hospital ship ever built. Quite a sight, isn't it? Said a voice behind. Her Lisa turned to see Admiral Grant approaching, his uniform crisp despite the early hour. Yes, sir, she replied. I never thought I'd see the entire fleet mobilized. Grant nodded, his eyes fixed on the ships. Operation Helping Hand, the largest rescue mission in human history. Lisa hesitated before asking the question on everyone's mind. Sir, do you really think we can help aliens we've never even met? The Admiral's face remained calm. Captain Morgan, do you know why I chose you to command the Mercy? No, sir. Because 10 years ago, when that volcano erupted in Indonesia, you took your medical ship into the danger zone against orders. You saved 2,000 lives that day. Lisa straightened her shoulders. Anyone would have done the same, sir. Grant smiled slightly. No, they wouldn't. But humans from Earth would. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. Predators, diseases, disasters. We survived by helping each other. He gestured toward the fleet. Now someone else needs that help. Lisa nodded, understanding. The Mercy will be ready, Admiral. Good, said Grant, because you leave in 18 hours. Down in the loading bay of the Mercy, Chief Engineer Mike Rogers checked the massive list on his tablet one more time. The ship needed to be prepared for every possible scenario. How are we supposed to know what medical supplies to bring for aliens? Complained his assistant Tony. Mike shrugged. That's why we're bringing everything. The whole cargo bay is filled with raw materials for the fabricators. Once our science team scans the aliens, we can make whatever they need. Across the bay, Marine Colonel Frank Taylor watched his soldiers load combat vehicles into the ship's belly. 500 Marines trained in hostile environment rescue operations would travel on the Mercy, with thousands more distributed throughout the fleet. "You think we'll have to fight?" asked Sergeant Jane Wilson as she secured a heavy assault vehicle. Frank checked the straps on the vehicle before answering. "I hope not, but we're not taking chances. If someone is sending distress calls, someone else is causing the distress." Jane nodded. "Makes sense. Better to have guns and not need them." "Exactly," Frank replied. "Besides, we're not just bringing weapons. Look over there." He pointed to where teams were loading construction equipment, water purifiers, and portable shelters. "We're bringing everything needed to save lives. The guns are just to make sure we can use it all." On the bridge of the flagship UES Defender, navigator Bill Thompson ran the final checks on the jump drive. The massive ship would lead the fleet to the Tau Ceti system, 12 light-years from Earth. No human ship had ever traveled so far. "Jump. Calculations complete, sir," Bill reported to Fleet Commander Ray Johnson. Ray studied the star charts on the main screen. 12 light-years. They've been waiting for help for 12 years, assuming they're still alive. "We'll get there, sir," Bill said confidently. "The new engines can make the journey in just 28 days. Ray nodded. "That's if everything goes perfectly, and things rarely go perfectly." The communication panel lit up and Ray pressed the button. "Johnson here." "Commander, this is Admiral Grant. How are your preparations coming?" "On schedule, Admiral. The Defender will be ready to lead the fleet in 12 hours. "Good," said Grant. "I've just come from the Mercy. Captain Morgan has her ship at 92% readiness." Ray smiled slightly. "Lisa always was an overachiever." "It's why I put her in charge of our medical response," Grant replied. "The President has asked to address the fleet before departure. Make sure all ships are patched into the main communication system by 0600 tomorrow." "Yes, sir." After the Admiral signed off, Ray turned back to the viewport. Outside, smaller vessels darted between the capital ships. Destroyers, cruisers, and frigates formed up in a precise pattern around the central hospital ships. "It's really happening," Bill said quietly. "First contact." Ray nodded. Not how anyone expected it to happen. But maybe this is better, meeting new life by helping them instead of fighting them. "If they're still alive," Bill added soberly. "That's why we're bringing 300 ships," Ray replied. "To make sure we get there in time to help, no matter what stands in our way." The following morning at exactly 0600, every screen on every ship in the fleet showed the same image. World President Laura Kim, standing in front of the United Earth flag. "Men and women of the United Earth Defense Force," she began, her voice clear and strong. "Today you embark on the most important mission in human history. For centuries, we have wondered if we are alone in the universe. Now we know we are not. And our first act as a spacefaring civilization will be one of mercy." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "Someone, somewhere among the stars, has asked for help, and you, the best of humanity, will answer that call. You carry with you not just the hopes of Earth, but our highest ideals. Our belief that life, wherever it exists, deserves protection." Throughout the fleet, thousands of crew members watched, in silence. "The path ahead may be dangerous," the President continued. "We do not know what awaits you in the Tau Ceti system, but we know this. If there is life to be saved, you will save it. If there are wounds to be healed, you will heal them. And if there are those who would stand in your way, you will show them the determination that has allowed humanity to survive on our harsh world." On the bridge of the Mercy, Lisa Morgan felt a swell of pride. "Go forth with courage," said President Kim. "Return with honor. And know that all of Earth stands with you as you carry our light to the stars." As the President's image faded, Admiral Grant's voice came through the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, prepare for departure. Operation Helping Hand is now active." One by one, the ships of the fleet lit their engines, moving away from Earth's orbit in perfect formation. The massive Mercy, surrounded by its protective ring of warships, took its place at the heart of the fleet. On the Defender's bridge, Ray gave the command they had all been waiting for. "All ships report ready, Admiral," he said. The fleet awaits your order. Admiral Grant stood tall, his eyes fixed on the stars ahead. Launch the fleet, he commanded. Take us to Tau Ceti, 300 ships, carrying the hopes and strength of humanity, accelerated away from Earth. The rescue mission had begun. 28 days of travel through the cold emptiness of space had changed the fleet. Ships that had left Earth gleaming were now battle-ready, their crews trained and focused. No one knew what awaited them in the Tau Ceti system, but everyone was prepared for the worst. Jump complete in 3, 2, 1, announced Navigator Bill Thompson on the Defender's bridge. A strange ripple passed through reality as 300 human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Tau Ceti system. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then, the alarms began to sound. Multiple contacts detected, shouted Sensor Officer Pete Wilson. Sir, we have ships in the system, a lot of ships, and they're firing on something. Fleet Commander Ray Johnson moved to the main screen, his face grim. Show me. The display lit up with a tactical overview. Dozens of sleek black vessels surrounded a small rocky planet, the third from the system's sun. Energy weapons fired from the ships, striking the planet's surface. Life signs on that planet? Ray asked quickly. Pete nodded, his eyes wide. Yes, sir. Thousands, maybe tens of thousands, concentrated in what looks like settlements, and they're dying, sir. Those bombardments are hitting populated areas. Ray's jaw tightened. And the attacking ships? Any identification? Unknown design, sir. Definitely not human. They appear to be... Wait. Pete looked up from his console. Sir, they're turning to face us. They've detected our arrival. Ray turned to Communications Officer Jim Davis. Open a channel to Admiral Grant on the command ship and prepare to broadcast on all frequencies, including toward those alien vessels. Jim worked his console quickly. Channel open to Admiral Grant, sir. Admiral Grant's face appeared on the side screen. I see it, Commander. Looks like we found our distress call. Yes, sir. Orders? Grant didn't hesitate. Deploy the fleet in rescue formation Delta. Destroyers will create a corridor to the surface. Carriers launch fighters for perimeter control. The Mercy and medical frigates stay back until we secure a landing zone. And the hostile ships, sir. Grant's expression hardened. Try to communicate first, but if they continue their attack on the planet, or if they target our ships, engage and neutralize the threat. Understood, sir, Ray replied, then turned to his crew. You heard the Admiral. Battle stations. Throughout the fleet, red alert lights flashed as crews rushed to their positions. On the flight decks of the carriers, pilots ran to their fighters. In the Marine barracks, soldiers checked their gear one last time. On the bridge of the Mercy, Captain Lisa Morgan watched the tactical display with growing concern. The hospital ship, designed for healing, not combat, hung back behind the protective screen of Earth's warships. Captain, called her communications officer, we're detecting a transmission from the planet's surface. It's weak, but it matches the distress signal pattern we received on Earth. Lisa straightened. Put it through. The main screen flickered, showing a strange face. The alien had pale blue skin, 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and no visible nose. It spoke in a melodic language no human had ever heard before. We can't understand them, Lisa said. Switch to first contact protocol. Send the mathematical greeting. As the Mercy transmitted the carefully designed message of peace, the medical teams below decks continued their preparations. They had no idea what kind of injuries they would be treating, but they were ready for anything. The alien attackers, momentarily confused by the sudden appearance of the human fleet, regrouped quickly. Their vessels, shaped like curved black blades, formed a new attack pattern. They're hailing us, Jim reported on the Defender. On screen, Ray ordered. The alien that appeared had too many eyes and a mouth that moved wrong, but its message translated clearly enough thanks to the advanced AI systems. This dispute does not concern you, unknown species. Depart immediately, or be destroyed. Admiral Grant, now linked to all command ships, stepped forward to respond. We received a distress call from this system. We are here to render assistance to those under attack. Cease your bombardment and withdraw your forces. The alien commander's many eyes blinked in what might have been confusion. You crossed 17 light years for a species you've never met? For a distress call? Yes, replied Grant simply. That is what humans do. The alien made a harsh sound that the translators couldn't process. Then you will die with them. We are the harvesters. This world is our prey. Before Grant could respond, the alien vessels opened fire on the human fleet. Incoming, shouted Tactical Officer Sam Green aboard the destroyer UES Thunder. Energy beams sliced through space toward the human ships. The first shots hit the Thunder's shields, causing them to flare bright blue. The ship shuddered but held steady. Shields at 82%, reported Engineer Kate Brown. Their weapons are powerful, but we can take it. Captain John White nodded grimly. Return fire. Target their weapons, systems only. Let's show them what Earth's defenses can do. The Thunder's main guns fired, sending pulses of energy toward the nearest harvester ship. The alien vessel tried to evade, but the human targeting systems were too precise. The shots struck home, disabling one of its weapon arrays. Similar scenes played out across the battlefield as human and harvester ships exchanged fire. The human vessels, built to withstand the harshest conditions, absorbed punishment that seemed to shock the harvesters. At the same time, humanity's weapons, developed from centuries of fighting each other, cut through the alien defenses with terrible efficiency. They didn't expect us to be this strong, John observed. They thought we'd be easy prey like the others. On the planet's surface, the inhabitants watched in awe as new lights appeared in their sky. For weeks, death had rained down from above as the harvesters systematically destroyed their cities. Their weapons, designed mainly for scientific research, had proven useless against the attackers. The Vesh, as they called themselves, had sent their distress call as a last, desperate act. No one had answered for years. Until now. Vesh leader Trin stood in the remains of their command center, watching the battle unfold through damaged sensors. Who are they? Asked one of their advisors. I don't know, Trin replied. But they're fighting the harvesters, and they appear to be winning. A new message appeared on their screens, transmitted on multiple frequencies. Unlike the harsh demands of the harvesters, this one began with simple mathematical formulas, a universal language. Then, images appeared. Strange bipedal beings in protective suits, medical equipment, rescue vehicles. They've come to help us, Trin whispered in disbelief. Someone actually came. The ground shook as several harvester bombardments struck nearby. But for the first time in weeks, Trin felt something they had almost forgotten. Hope. In orbit, Admiral Grant watched the battle from the command ship. Status report, he demanded. Our ships are holding, sir, Ray reported from the Defender. We've disabled 8 harvester vessels with no casualties on our side. Their weapons are strong, but our shields are stronger, Grant nodded. And the landing zone? Marines are ready for deployment, sir. We've secured a corridor to the surface. The first rescue shuttles can launch in 5 minutes. Grant looked at the tactical display where human ships formed a protective barrier between the harvesters and the planet. Launch the rescue teams. Tell the Mercy to prepare for incoming wounded. As the first human shuttles descended toward the planet's surface, the message was clear to both the grateful Vesh and the stunned harvesters. Humanity had arrived, and they had come to help. Marine Colonel Frank Taylor felt the shuttle shake as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Through the viewport, he could see the battle raging in orbit. Flashes of light as human and harvester ships exchanged fire. His team of 40 Marines sat in full combat gear, weapons ready. 2 minutes to landing, announced the pilot. Be advised, we're getting readings of multiple harvester ground forces near the landing zone. Frank checked his rifle one last time. Understood. All units, remember our mission. We're here to protect the rescue teams and secure the area for evacuation. These people called for help, and we're going to give it to them. The shuttle descended toward a flat area outside a damaged alien city. Buildings of strange crystalline material rose in elegant spires, many now broken and smoking. As they approached, Frank could see movement, smaller aliens running from larger armored figures. Those must be the harvesters on the ground, said Sergeant Jane Wilson pointing to the armored figures. They're hunting the locals. Frank's jaw tightened. Not anymore, they're not. Weapons-free people. Protect the civilians at all costs. The shuttle touched down with a thud, its ramp lowering quickly. Frank led his Marines out, fanning into defensive positions around the landing zone. 2 more shuttles landed nearby, disgorging more troops. The nearest Harvester ground units turned toward the human arrival, raising strange weapons. Frank didn't wait for them to fire first. Take them down, he ordered. Human weapons, designed on a world where everything was trying to kill you. Fired with devastating precision, the Harvester troops, used to hunting helpless prey, found themselves facing soldiers born on a death world. 3 fell immediately under the barrage. Area secure, reported Jane after a brief, intense firefight. No casualties on our side. Frank nodded, then activated his comm. Landing zone Alpha secured. Send in the medical teams. Dr. Alex Cooper stepped off the medical shuttle, carrying equipment designed to treat humans but reprogrammed during the journey to handle alien physiology. Behind him came 20 medics, each loaded with supplies. This way, called a Marine, leading them toward a group of injured Vesh who had been hiding in a partially collapsed building. Alex approached the aliens carefully. They were smaller than humans, with 4 arms and blue skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. Many were injured, blue blood seeping from wounds caused by Harvester weapons. I'm here to help, Alex said, knowing they couldn't understand his words but hoping his actions would speak for him. He activated his medical scanner, running it over the nearest injured Vesh. The alien flinched at first, then relaxed as it realized the human meant no harm. Alex's scanner beeped, displaying information about the alien's biology on his tablet. Fascinating, he muttered. Their cellular structure is completely different from ours, but the basic medical needs are similar. They need fluid replacement, wound sealing, and pain management. He turned to his team. Set up triage here. Priority to the most severely wounded. Use the new protocols we developed on the ship. As the medical team worked, more shuttles arrived, bringing engineers, more Marines, and relief supplies. The human rescue operation was in full swing. Aboard the Mercy, now moved closer to the planet under the protection of the fleet, Captain Lisa Morgan coordinated the massive operation. Her ship's enormous medical bays were being prepared to receive the most critical cases from the surface. The first transports with wounded will dock in 10 minutes, reported her executive officer. Lisa nodded. Make sure all medical teams are ready, and have our engineers standing by with the fabricators. Once we get more data on Vesh biology, we'll need to create specialized equipment. A communication officer looked up from his station. Captain, we're receiving a direct transmission from the surface. It's from the Vesh leader. Put it through, Lisa ordered. The main screen showed a Vesh with more elaborate markings than the others. A translation program, now updated with new information, converted the alien's melodic speech to English. I am Trin, leader of the Southern Vesh Collective, the alien said. We wish to express our gratitude for your intervention. Without your arrival, our species would have faced extinction. Lisa smiled. We're glad we could help. I'm Captain Lisa Morgan of the United Earth Hospital ship Mercy. We received your distress call and came as quickly as we could. Trin's 4 eyes blinked in a pattern that suggested surprise. You received our message? We have been broadcasting for nearly 15 Earth years, hoping someone might hear us. We heard you, Lisa said simply. And we came. Trin leaned closer to the camera. Your species responds to distress calls with warships? Lisa smiled. We respond with everything we have. The warships are because we've learned that those who would harm others don't stop just because we're trying to help. But why come at all? We are strangers to you. Different species from different stars. Lisa thought for a moment before answering. Because that's what humans do. When someone calls for help, we answer. Always. On the planet's surface, in what had once been a Vesh Science Center, Colonel Frank and his Marines fought a pitched battle against Harvester ground forces trying to retake the area. They're pushing hard on the east side, shouted Jane over the sound of weapons fire. Frank ducked behind a fallen column as energy blasts struck nearby. They want their prey back, he growled. Not happening on my watch. He activated his tactical display, showing the positions of all human forces on the surface. 3 secure zones had been established, with thousands of Vesh already evacuated to safety. Engineers were setting up defense systems and medical stations. "Cooper, what's your status?" Frank called into his comm. Dr. Alex's voice came through, sounding tired but determined. "We've treated over 200 critically wounded. The shuttle's taking another 40 up to the Mercy now. These people have been through hell, Colonel." "Well, hell just met humanity," Frank replied. "And we're tougher." He turned to his squad. "New plan. We're not just holding this position. We're pushing them back. I want these harvesters off this planet." The Marines looked at each other, then nodded grimly. Earth had evolved predators of all kinds, but humans had become the apex predator. Now they would show the harvesters what that meant. In orbit, the battle had turned decisively in humanity's favor. The harvester ships, while numerous, couldn't match the determination and tactical skills of the human fleet. On the Defender's bridge, Fleet Commander Ray watched as another harvester vessel broke off the attack and retreated to a safe distance. "They're pulling back, sir," reported Tactical Officer Sam Green. "All across the battlefield," Ray nodded. "They've never faced real resistance before. They're used to picking on the helpless." Admiral Grant's face appeared on the command screen. "Commander, what's the status of the harvester fleet?" "Retreating, sir. We've disabled 12 of their ships and damaged at least 20 more. The rest are withdrawing to the outer system." Grant nodded with satisfaction. "Good. Keep the pressure on them, but focus on protecting our rescue operations. How are things on the surface?" "Going well, sir," Ray replied. "Colonel Taylor reports 3 secure zones established. Dr. Cooper and his medical teams have treated hundreds of wounded Vesh. Captain Morgan has the Mercy operating at full capacity." "Excellent," said Grant. "The World President is requesting an update. I'll tell her the good news. Humanity's first rescue mission to another star is a success." As Ray turned back to the tactical display, he couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Humanity had traveled across 12 light years not to conquer, not to claim resources, but to answer a call for help. And they had succeeded. 1 month had passed since the human fleet arrived in the Tau Ceti system. What had begun as a desperate rescue mission had evolved into something much more significant. The harvester forces had been driven not just from the Vesh homeworld, but from 3 neighboring systems as well. Admiral Tom Grant stood at the window of his quarters aboard the command ship, watching shuttles move between the fleet and the planet below. The Vesh world was healing. Cities were being rebuilt with human help. The injured were recovering thanks to medical science from Earth. His communication panel chimed. "Admiral, the final harvester ship has left the system," reported Fleet Commander Ray Johnson. "Long-range sensors show them jumping to faster-than-light travel. They're retreating to their home territory." Grant nodded with satisfaction. "They've learned their lesson. Preying on the helpless is easy. Facing humanity is not." "Sir," Ray continued, "we've received a message from Earth. The World President wants to speak with you." "Put her through." The screen lit up, showing President Laura Kim. Despite the 12 light-year distance, the quantum communicators allowed for real-time conversation. "Admiral Grant," she said, smiling broadly, "I've just reviewed your latest report. Congratulations on a successful mission." "Thank you, Madam President. The fleet performed admirably." "And the Vesh? How are they recovering?" Grant's expression softened. "Remarkably well. They're a resilient species despite their peaceful nature. Captain Morgan reports that almost all of the wounded have been treated successfully. The engineers have helped them strengthen their planetary defenses, and Colonel Taylor's Marines have trained a volunteer force for self-defense." President Kim nodded. "Excellent. And there's more good news. The 12 representatives from various alien civilizations have arrived at Earth. They're quite eager to meet with you when you return." Grant raised an eyebrow. 12? There were only 3 when we left. "Word spreads quickly even among the stars," President Kim replied. "It seems your rescue of the Vesh has caused quite a stir in our galactic neighborhood. Species we didn't even know existed have reached out to us." On the surface of the Vesh homeworld, in a newly constructed meeting hall, Captain Lisa Morgan sat across from Vesh leader Trin. Over the past month they had worked closely together, coordinating the rescue and rebuilding efforts. "Your people have done more than save us," Trin said, their four eyes blinking in a pattern Lisa had come to recognize as gratitude. "You have shown us how to protect ourselves," Lisa smiled. "Everyone deserves the chance to live in peace and safety. We never understood why no one answered our calls," Trin continued. "Now we realize most species evolved on safer worlds. They never developed the instinct to run toward danger instead of away from it. Earth shaped us," Lisa explained. "Our planet tried to kill us every day with predators, diseases, natural disasters. We survived by helping each other." Trin gestured to a large display showing the status of the rebuilding efforts. "Now you help others, even across the stars. Because of humans, my people will live. Our culture will continue. Our children will grow up under peaceful skies." A young Marine entered the room. "Captain Morgan, Admiral Grant requests your presence for the ceremony in 1 hour." Lisa nodded. "Thank you. I'll be there." She turned back to Trin. "Will you join us?" "I would be honored," the Vesh leader replied. The central plaza of the largest Vesh city had been transformed. Once damaged by harvester attacks, it now stood rebuilt and decorated with symbols from both Earth and the Vesh homeworld. Thousands of aliens and hundreds of humans gathered for the historic ceremony. Colonel Frank Taylor stood at attention with his Marines, their uniforms cleaned and pressed for the occasion. Nearby, Dr. Alex Cooper and his medical team watched with pride as many of their former patients joined the crowd, now healed and strong. Admiral Grant stepped onto the raised platform, followed by Captain Morgan, Fleet Commander Johnson, and Vesh leader Trin. "People of Earth and people of Vesh," Grant began, his voice carrying across the plaza. "1 month ago, humanity answered a call for help. Today we celebrate not just a successful rescue, but the beginning of a new chapter for both our civilizations." Trin stepped forward. "For 15 years we sent our message into the void, hoping someone would hear us. Many species received our call, but only one responded. Humans, the Death Worlders from Earth." The Admiral turned to Trin, presenting an ornate document. "This treaty of friendship and mutual defense between Earth and the Vesh marks the first such agreement between our world and another. From this day forward, our peoples stand together." As the two leaders signed the document, cheers erupted from the crowd. For humanity, it was the fulfillment of an ancient dream, peaceful contact with alien life. For the Vesh, it was the promise of a safer future. 2 weeks later, Earth's newly constructed galactic embassy hosted an unprecedented gathering. Representatives from 12 alien civilizations sat around a large circular table, with Admiral Grant representing humanity. "We never imagined that our rescue mission would lead to this," Grant said, looking around at the diverse alien faces. Some had multiple eyes, others multiple limbs. Some breathed oxygen, others methane, but all had come with the same purpose. A gaseous being contained in a transparent sphere spoke through a translator. "In our history, we classified Earth as a prohibited death world. We thought nothing good could come from such a place. We were wrong. Your harsh world created a species that refuses to let others suffer if they can prevent it." Another alien, tall and insect-like, clicked its mandibles before speaking. "The harvesters have preyed on peaceful worlds for centuries. No one stood against them, until humanity arrived." Trin, now serving as the Vesh ambassador, addressed the gathering. "My people owe our lives to humans. But this alliance is not just for the Vesh. It is for all peaceful species who wish to explore the stars without fear." Admiral Grant signed the Mutual Defense Pact with a traditional ink pen, a nod to human history. Earth would extend its protection to all 12 civilizations, creating the first interstellar alliance in human history. "This is just the beginning," he said. "Humanity stands ready to extend our protection to any peaceful civilization that asks for it. When you send out an SOS, we will always answer." As the ceremony concluded, a young communications officer rushed into the room, approaching Grant with an urgent message. The Admiral read it quickly, then looked up at the assembled representatives. 3. More distress signals detected from different sectors of the galaxy, he announced. 2 from known species under attack, and 1 from a civilization we haven't encountered before. Without hesitation, the alien representatives turned to him, waiting for his response. They already knew what it would be. Grant stood tall, embodying the spirit that had carried humanity from a harsh world to the stars. "Prepare the fleet," he said. "We have calls to answer." And so humanity continued to do what Deathworlders do best, rushing toward danger, not away from it, bringing hope to the hopeless, answering when called, launching the fleet, Andy. The grand meeting hall of the Galactic Council fell silent. Hundreds of alien representatives from across the stars watched as Ambassador Trell walked to the center of the room. His blue skin looked pale, and his 4 hands trembled slightly. "Honored members of the Council," Trell began, his voice shaking, "I come before you today with grave news. The Vex Dominion has attacked 3 of our outer worlds. My people are dying." The room filled with worried whispers. Everyone knew about the Vex. For the past 50 years, these gray-skinned, six-eyed aliens had been taking over planets one by one. No one had been able to stop them. Elder Mox, the oldest member of the council, leaned forward in his hover chair. His skin was wrinkled like old paper, and his eyes had seen many wars. "What help do you seek, Ambassador Trell?" he asked. "The council has strict rules about getting involved in conflicts." Trell pressed a button on his wrist device. A large image appeared above the center of the room. It showed burning cities, destroyed ships, and countless dead bodies of his people. "Have tried everything," Trell said, his voice growing stronger with desperation. "Our ships are no match for theirs. Our weapons cannot penetrate their shields. If no one helps us, the Lumari people will be wiped out within months." The council members looked at each other nervously. None of their species had the military power to stand against the Vex. Most of them had evolved on peaceful worlds, developing technology for comfort and exploration, not war. Then Elder Mox spoke again. "There is one option we have not considered." He paused, looking around the room. "The humans." The room erupted in shocked voices. "The Deathworlders?" gasped Representative Quill, her feathers standing on end. "You cannot be serious." "They are too dangerous," shouted another. "Their military might is too extreme," called a third. Elder Mox raised a hand for silence. "Yes, the humans evolved on a Class 12 death world. Their planet tried to kill them every day with deadly animals, extreme weather, and constant disasters. This forced them to become the most effective warriors in the galaxy." He looked directly at Trell. "Since joining our galactic Concord 15 years ago, the humans have kept their military fleet within their own borders. But they signed the Mutual Defense Treaty. If you officially ask for help, they must respond." Trell's eyes widened. Everyone had heard stories about the humans and their fearsome abilities. They were known to be kind to friends but merciless to enemies. Their bodies were built to endure pain that would kill most aliens. Their minds were wired for combat and strategy, in ways no other species could match. "I will request their aid," Trell decided. "My people have no other hope." Captain Thomas Reed stood on the bridge of the UES Dauntless, the flagship of Earth's Third Fleet. At 45 years old, Reed had the weathered face of a career military officer. Scars crossed his arms and face, telling stories of battles fought long ago. The Dauntless was conducting routine training exercises in the outer rim of human space. 10 other warships moved in perfect formation around them, their crews practicing maneuvers that hadn't been needed in real combat for years. "Sir," called Lieutenant Park from the communication station. "Incoming priority message from command. Marked urgent." Reed nodded. "Put it through to my ready room." In the small office adjacent to the bridge, Reed activated the secure communication system. Admiral Harris, the head of the United Earth Defense Force, appeared on the screen. "Captain Reed," she said without greeting, "the situation has changed. We've received a formal request for military aid from the Lumari Federation." Reed's eyebrows rose slightly. "The Lumari? They're under attack?" The Vex Dominion has invaded 3 of their border systems, Harris explained. Based on current projections, the Lumari will fall within 3 months without external help. Reed's mind quickly processed this information. And the Council has approved our intervention? Yes. For the first time since we joined the Concord, Earth has been formally asked to unleash its military might. Harris's face was grave. The Gaidar Joint Chiefs have approved full deployment. Your fleet will be the first to respond. Reed felt a strange mix of emotions. For 15 years, humanity had restrained its true capabilities, showing the galaxy only a fraction of what they could do. Many alien species already feared humans simply for what they knew about them. If they saw what humans were truly capable of in war, "Send me all available intelligence on Vex military capabilities," Reed said. "We'll set course for Lumari space immediately." "There's one more thing, Captain," Harris added. "The decision to request our help wasn't unanimous. Many in the Council fear what will happen once we demonstrate our full military potential. Proceed with caution." Reed nodded. "Understood, Admiral." Dauntless out. When Reed returned to the bridge, his officers could tell something had changed just by looking at his face. "New orders, sir?" asked Commander Anna Wilson, his executive officer for the past 5 years. Her dark eyes watched him carefully. "Yes," Reed said, his voice carrying across the bridge. "All hands to battle stations. Navigation. Set course for the Lumari Federation, maximum speed. Communications. Signal the rest of the fleet to form up." The bridge crew exchanged surprised glances, but no one questioned the orders. "Sir," Wilson said quietly as she approached. "Reed. May I ask what's happening?" Reed activated the main display, showing a star map of Lumari territory. Red markers indicated Vex fleet movements. "The Lumari have formally requested our military assistance against the Vex Dominion," he explained. "And Earth has agreed." Wilson's eyes widened slightly. "So we're finally going to war, after all these years of holding back?" "Yes," Reed said, his voice grim. "For 15 years we've kept our true capabilities hidden. We've played nice. We've been patient. But now a peaceful species has asked for our help and we will answer." He turned to face the entire bridge crew. "Ladies and gentlemen, for many of you, this will be your first real combat situation. The Vex are a powerful enemy who has conquered 17 systems before this. They have never lost a war." He paused, his eyes moving from one officer to another. "Until now." Lieutenant Park called out from his station. "Sir, the rest of the fleet reports ready for jump. All systems green." Reed took his command chair, his face set with determination. "The galaxy thinks they know what humans are capable of," he said. "They're about to learn how wrong they are. Jump when ready." Outside the viewports, stars stretched into lines as the 11 warships of Earth's Third Fleet accelerated to faster-than-light speeds. They left behind the safety of human space, racing toward a conflict that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The Deathworlders were coming, and the Vex would never know what hit them. The news spread quickly across human space. For the first time since joining the galactic community, Earth was going to war. Not against another human faction, but against an alien threat that endangered a peaceful species. Deep beneath the mountains of North America, the top military leaders of Earth gathered in a secure command center. The room was cut from solid rock, designed to survive even if the surface world burned. Massive screens covered the walls, showing military bases across Earth and its colonies. Admiral James Walker stood at the head of the table. His gray hair and lined face showed his 60 years of age, but his eyes remained sharp and focused. "The Third Fleet under Captain Reed will reach Lumari space in 3 days," Walker announced to the gathered officers. "But they are only 11 ships. Intelligence suggests the Vex have over 100 vessels in the region." Defense Secretary Garcia, a tall woman with short black hair, frowned. "Even our best ships can't fight those odds. What's the plan?" Walker pressed a button on the table. The main screen changed to show hundreds of warships in orbit around Earth and Mars. Most were dark, their systems in sleep mode. "We wake up the fleet," Walker said simply. "All of it." A hushed silence fell over the room. For 15 years, humanity had shown only a small fraction of its military might to the galaxy. Most of their warships had been placed in standby mode as a sign of peaceful intentions when Earth joined the Galactic Concord. The diplomatic implications will be significant, warned Garcia. Many Council species already fear us. When they see our full capabilities, they asked for our help, Walker cut in. And they'll get it. All of it. He looked around the table. The authorization has been signed. Operation Firewall is now active. One by one, the officers nodded. Orders were sent out across human space. The sleeping giants were about to wake. Up on the massive orbital shipyard above Mars, General Laura Mitchell watched as long-dormant systems came back online. The enormous hangar doors, closed for over a decade, slowly began to open. "Power levels at 100%, General," reported her aide, Major Bell. "All 17 vessels responding to reactivation codes." Mitchell nodded, her eyes fixed on the ships revealed, as the hangar doors fully opened. Unlike the sleek diplomatic vessels Earth usually displayed to alien visitors, these were true warships. Their dark hulls absorbed light rather than reflected it. Weapon ports lined their sides, currently closed but ready. "Begin pre-flight checks," Mitchell ordered. "I want all ships combat ready in 48 hours. Similar scenes played out across human territory. In the asteroid belt, massive mining stations, transformed into shipyards. On the moons of Jupiter, long-sealed bunkers opened to reveal experimental weapons. On Earth itself, factories that had been producing civilian goods switched to military production. Commander Mark Davis supervised the reactivation of humanity's most powerful weapons, the Titan-class dreadnoughts. These enormous ships dwarf everything else in the human fleet. The Nightfall and Colossus had been placed in hibernation mode after the Concord, hidden from alien eyes. Davis watched as thousands of workers swarmed over the massive vessels, bringing systems online, loading ammunition, and preparing engines. "The Nightfall and Colossus will be ready within the week, Admiral," he reported via secure link to Walker. "Their weapon systems are at optimal readiness." Walker's face on the screen showed satisfaction. "Good. We're going to need them." On the Waish Lumari homeworld, Ambassador Trell sat in his private chambers reading the message that had just arrived from Earth. As he understood what the humans were sending, his blue skin turned almost white with shock. 300 ships? He whispered to himself. How is this possible? His aide, Vin, looked equally stunned. The humans claimed to have only 40 warships when they joined the Concord. They lied, Trell realized. Or at least they never revealed their true strength. He looked out the window at the night sky, knowing that somewhere out there the Vex were coming for his people. And now, so were the humans. He wasn't sure which frightened him more. "Should we inform the Council?" asked Vin. Trell considered this carefully. Many Council members had only reluctantly agreed to request human help. If they knew the true extent of human military power. No, he decided. What matters is saving our people. If the humans can stop the Vex, that's all that matters. Captain Reed and his officers stood in the command center of the Dauntless, studying holographic displays of the Lumari border systems. The Vex have established bases on these 3 planets, Reed explained, pointing to red markers. Their main fleet is concentrated here, preparing to push deeper into Lumari territory. Commander Wilson studied the display. Our 11 ships can't take on their main fleet directly. We need to be smarter. Reed nodded. We hit them where they don't expect us. Their forward base at Helios 9 is lightly defended. If we strike there first, we can disrupt their supply lines while we wait for reinforcements. Speaking of reinforcements, Wilson said, checking her tablet. I just received word from command the full fleet has been activated. First wave of 50 ships will arrive within a week. Reed's eyebrows rose slightly. 50? That's more than I expected. Wilson's face was grim. That's just the first wave, sir. According to this, over 300 vessels are being prepared. A heavy silence fell over the command center. Even most human officers didn't know the true size of Earth's military capacity. 300 ships, whispered Lieutenant Park. We've never deployed that many, not even during the Civil War. Reed's face remained calm, but his eyes showed his surprise. It seems Command isn't taking any chances. The Vex have never lost a war. We're going to make sure this is their first. 3 days later, the Dauntless and its 10 escort ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Helios 9 system. Immediately, their advanced sensors began scanning the area. 5 Vex warships detected in orbit around the main planet, reported the sensor officer. Multiple ground installations, approximately 2,000 Vex troops on the surface. Reed nodded, his face showing no emotion. They don't know we're here yet. Our stealth systems are holding. He turned to Wilson. Prepare the attack plan. We'll strike in 6 hours when their ships are on the far side of the planet. As his officers rushed to make preparations, Reed stood alone by the main viewport, looking out at the distant stars. Somewhere back there, the full might of human military power was awakening. Ships that had been hidden from the galaxy were now being readied for war. What have we started? He wondered quietly. Then he turned back to his crew, his resolve firm once again. Battle stations. We show them what humans can do. The first true test of humanity's military might against the Vex Dominion was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same afterward. The Vex command ship Subjugator moved in a steady orbit around Helios 9. The planet below had once been home to millions of Lumari colonists. Now, it belonged to the Vex Dominion. On the bridge, Subcommander Drex monitored the occupation progress. His gray skin had a metallic shine under the ship's lights, and all 6 of his eyes blinked in different patterns as he processed information. Resistance has been eliminated in all major cities, he reported to his superior. Mining operations can begin in 2 days. Supreme Commander Krell nodded with satisfaction. Unlike other Vex officers, Krell had studied alien species extensively. His large head housed a brain that could process information faster than any computer. The Lumari were even weaker than expected, Krell noted. Their colony fell with minimal losses on our side. A junior officer approached nervously. Commander, our long-range sensors are detecting unusual energy readings at the edge of the system. Krell frowned. Source? Unknown, sir. The signature doesn't match any Lumari design. Before Krell could respond, the ship's alarms blared. The main screen showed a blinding flash of light at the edge of the system. Where empty space had existed moments before, 5 human warships appeared, led by the massive form of the UES Dauntless. Deathworlders, Krell whispered, his 6 eyes widening. The communication system crackled to life, and a human face appeared on the screen. Captain Reed's expression was calm, almost casual. Attention, Vex forces. Reed's deep voice echoed across the bridge. This system is under the protection of the United Earth Defense Force. You are ordered to withdraw immediately. Drex turned to his commander. The humans have never fought outside their borders. Their combat capabilities are untested. Krell studied the human vessels with scientific curiosity. They are outnumbered. We have 5 ships to their 5. He paused, thinking. But those are not all their vessels. Humans are known for deception. Scan for more ships. The sensor officer worked frantically. I detect 6 more human vessels hiding behind the system's outer moon. They appear to be smaller attack craft. Krell nodded. As expected. Still, we outnumber their main ships. Prepare to engage. Shall I call for reinforcements? Asked Drex. No, Krell decided. The humans have never fought in a full-scale space battle. This is an opportunity to assess their true capabilities. On the Dauntless, Reed watched as the Vex ships began to move into attack formation. They're taking the bait, he said to Commander Wilson. They don't know about our 6 frigates hiding behind the moon. Wilson nodded. The Vex are advancing in standard formation. They're predictable. That's their weakness, Reed agreed. All ships, prepare for combat. Remember your training. These aren't simulation exercises anymore. The Vex ships fired first. Bright beams of energy streaked across space toward the human vessels. On most ships, such an attack would require evasive maneuvers, but the human ships didn't move. Instead, previously hidden defense systems activated. Overlapping energy fields shimmered into existence, absorbing and redirecting the Vex attack. The beams that should have damaged the human ships instead dissipated harmlessly. Shields holding at 98%, reported Lieutenant Park. Reed allowed himself a small smile. Now it's our turn. All ships, weapons free. Execute tactical pattern Omega. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations. The human ship suddenly accelerated to speeds the Vex had calculated to be impossible for vessels of their size. Instead of forming a battle line as most species would, the Earth vessels split into pairs, attacking from multiple directions simultaneously. The Dauntless fired its main weapons, not energy beams like most advanced races used, but hypervelocity, projectiles that moved at a significant fraction of light speed. The first Vex ship had no time to react before 3 such projectiles tore through its shields and ripped open its hull. Target 1 disabled, Wilson announced calmly, moving to Target 2. Meanwhile, the 6 hidden frigates emerged from behind, the Moon, launching swarms of smaller attack drones. These unmanned vehicles moved in seemingly random patterns, confusing the Vex targeting systems while firing precision strikes at vulnerable points. On the subjugator, Krell watched with growing alarm as 2 more of his ships suffered critical damage. Impossible, he said, his voice barely audible. Their attack pattern is completely unpredictable. Drex was frantically trying to coordinate their defense. Our targeting systems cannot lock onto their smaller craft, and their main vessels are moving too erratically. Krell studied the tactical display with growing understanding. They don't fight like any species we've encountered. Look at their maneuvers. They're 3-dimensional. Most races think in 2 dimensions, even in space. A massive explosion rocked their ship as the Dauntless scored a direct hit on their primary weapon system. Weapons at 30% capacity, an officer reported, panic in his voice. Shields failing. Krell made a decision that would change the course of the war. All vessels, emergency withdrawal, return to Vex territory immediately. Drex stared at his commander in shock. Withdraw? We've never retreated from battle. We've never faced Deathworlders before, Krell replied grimly. Their neural architecture processes combat situations differently than ours. Their brains evolved to track moving prey in 3 dimensions. Our tactical AI cannot match their intuitive understanding of combat. The remaining Vex ships, damaged but still operational, activated their faster-than-light drives. In a flash of light, they vanished from the system, leaving behind the wreckage of their defeated comrades. On the surface of Helios 9, Lumari colonists emerged from hiding places to see human ships in orbit, where Vex vessels had been just hours before. Marines from the Dauntless landed in small craft to secure key locations and provide medical aid. Lieutenant Maria Torres led the first landing party into the main colony. Everywhere she looked, Lumari civilians stared at the humans with a mixture of fear and wonder. An elderly Lumari approached her cautiously. "You are human?" Torres nodded, removing her helmet to show her face. "Yes. United Earth Marines. We're here to help." The old Lumari turned to his people. "The Deathworlders came to our aid," he announced, his voice cracking with emotion. Soon, the streets filled with Lumari civilians, all wanting to see the humans who had driven away the unstoppable Vex. Children pointed at the Marines' weapons and armor with wide eyes. Adults bowed their heads in respect and gratitude. Back on the Dauntless, Reed received the first damage reports. 2 of their ships had suffered minor damage, but there were no casualties. The Vex retreated much sooner than expected, Wilson noted, reviewing the battle recordings. Their technology is advanced, but their tactics were basic. Reed nodded thoughtfully. They've never needed to develop complex strategies. Until now, their technological advantage was enough. He turned to his communications officer. "Send word to Earth. The Vex are formidable but vulnerable. And let them know we'll need ground forces to secure this planet completely." As the message was sent, Reed knew that the Battle of Helios 9 was just the beginning. The Vex would return, and next time they would be prepared for human tactics. But so would humanity. And the full might of Earth's military was already on its way. News of the human victory at Helios 9 spread quickly through the galaxy. For many species who had suffered under Vex aggression, it brought something they had not felt in years: hope. On the Dauntless, Captain Reed studied the latest intelligence reports with his senior officers. 2 weeks had passed since their first battle with the Vex, and in that time, they had received reinforcements. 20 more human warships had arrived at Helios 9, along with transport vessels carrying ground forces and supplies. The Vex are not sitting idle, Commander Wilson noted, pointing to movement patterns on the tactical display. Long-range scans show they're gathering a massive fleet in the Tartarus sector. At least 60 capital ships, possibly more. Reed nodded grimly. They're preparing a counterattack. Our victory at Helios 9 hurt their pride. The Vex have never been defeated before, and they won't take it lightly. Lieutenant Park looked up from his console. Sir, incoming transmission. From Earth. Admiral Walker wants to speak with you. The main screen lit up with the stern face of Admiral Walker. Captain Reed, I've reviewed your battle reports. The Joint Chiefs are impressed with your performance. Thank you, sir, Reed replied. But the Vex are regrouping. They'll come back stronger. Walker's expression remained serious. We know. That's why I'm contacting you. The full fleet is being deployed, Captain. Operation Firewall is now in full effect. Reed exchanged glances with his officers. Operation Firewall wasn't just a defensive action. It was the complete activation of humanity's military might. How many ships, Admiral? Reed asked, though he already knew the answer. 317 combat vessels, Captain. The 1st, 3rd, and 5th fleets are already underway. The 2nd and 4th will secure human space. Even Wilson, who prided herself on maintaining a professional demeanor, couldn't hide her surprise. 300 ships, that's almost everything we have. Walker nodded. The Vex represent an existential threat not just to the Lumari, but to all peaceful species. We will not allow them to continue their conquests. He paused. Your orders are to hold Helios 9 until the main fleet arrives. Then you'll join Admiral Donovan for the push into Vex territory. As the transmission ended, Reed turned to his officers. It seems we're no longer just defending the Lumari. We're taking the fight to the enemy. On the Lumari diplomatic vessel, orbiting Helios 9, Ambassador Trell watched with growing concern as more human ships arrived. Each new vessel was larger and more heavily armed than the last. Their military capacity exceeds all our estimates, he said to his aide, Vin. No wonder they kept most of their fleet hidden when they joined the Concord. A tall human woman in a crisp uniform entered the observation deck. Admiral Kate Donovan had arrived with the second wave of reinforcements and had been assigned as military liaison to the Lumari. Ambassador Trell, she greeted him with a slight bow. I hope I'm not interrupting. Not at all, Admiral, Trell replied, turning from the viewport. I was just admiring your ships. Donovan smiled. Those are just our expeditionary forces. The main fleet will arrive within the week. Trell's skin paled slightly. May I ask why Earth is committing such overwhelming force? The Vex are dangerous, but because that's how humans wage war, Ambassador, Donovan said simply. We don't believe in fair fights or measured responses. When we go to war, we commit everything. But why? Trell asked. Most species use only the force necessary to achieve their objectives. Donovan looked out at the stars. We evolved solving problems through conflict, she explained. Where other species developed cooperation first and competition second, our history followed the opposite path. On Earth, a measured response often meant defeat and death. Trell considered this. And now? Donovan's smile was thin. Now we'll show the Vex what happens when you threaten those under our protection. In the Tartarus sector, Supreme Commander Krell faced the Dominion's ruling conclave. The defeat at Helios 9 had shaken the Vex leadership to its core. The conclave chamber was dark, lit only by the glow of data screens. 7 Vex leaders sat in a semicircle, their faces hidden by ceremonial masks. Explain your failure, demanded High Lord Vax, leader of the conclave. His voice echoed through the chamber. Krell stood straight, showing no fear. The humans possess capabilities we did not anticipate. Their technology is impressive, but more concerning is their tactical flexibility. Explain, ordered Vax. Krell activated a holographic display, showing recordings of the battle. Most species fight according to predictable patterns. Their tactics evolve from their environmental adaptation. He pointed to the erratic movements of the human ships. The humans do not. They adapt in real time, changing strategies mid-battle. Another conclave member leaned forward. How is this possible? Their evolutionary path, Krell explained. Humans evolved as both predator and prey on a Class 12 death world. Their neural architecture developed to process combat situations differently than ours. Vax considered this information. Your recommendation? We must commit our full military strength to crush them decisively, Krell said without hesitation. The humans represent the first true threat to Vex supremacy we have ever encountered. High Lord Vax stood, his decision made. Begin full mobilization. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon. We will show these Deathworlders that the Vex Dominion cannot be defeated. Throughout Vex territory, the order spread. Production facilities tripled their output. Reserve fleets were activated. Soldiers were pulled from occupation duties and reassigned to frontline units. For the first time in their history of conquest, the Vex prepared for a war they weren't certain they could win. Back on Earth, crowds gathered in cities around the world to watch news broadcasts about the war. For the first time, humans saw footage of their ships fighting an alien enemy. In the Pentagon War Room, Secretary Garcia watched the public reaction with concern. The people are treating this like a sporting event, she told Admiral Walker. They don't understand what we're facing. Walker nodded. The Vex have conquered 17 systems before this. They've never been stopped. If we fail, we won't fail, a new voice said. They turned to see General Mitchell entering the room. The Titan-class dreadnoughts Nightfall and Colossus are fully operational. They're joining the fleet tomorrow. Walker's expression lightened slightly. Those two ships alone could turn the tide of a major battle. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Garcia said quietly. The galaxy already fears what humans might do if provoked, if they see the full extent of our capabilities. They asked for our help, Walker reminded her, and they'll get it. He turned to the massive display showing fleet movements across 3 sectors of space. The Vex started this war. We're going to finish it. As the two massive forces gathered, the galaxy held its breath. The Deathworlders were fully awakened, and the coming conflict would reshape the balance of power for centuries to come. In his cabin aboard the Dauntless, Captain Reed reviewed battle plans for the coming offensive. Looking at the staggering number of ships being committed, he couldn't help but wonder if humanity had been waiting for this moment, a chance to show the galaxy what they were truly capable of. For better or worse, the restraints were off. Humans were going to war, and the Vex would soon learn why Earth's history was written in blood. The Nexus system became the battlefield for the largest space conflict in galactic history. 3 weeks of constant fighting had tested both sides to their limits. The Vex had committed nearly their entire military might, over 200 warships, supported by countless drone fighters and orbital weapons platforms. Facing them was the combined human fleet, now reinforced by volunteer vessels from a dozen alien species who had suffered under Vex oppression. The humans had brought their most powerful weapons to bear, including the 2 massive Titan-class dreadnoughts, Nightfall and Colossus. From his command post on the bridge of the Colossus, Admiral Walker directed the final phase of the operation. The giant ship was over 2 miles long with weapons that could destroy an entire city from orbit. Around him, officers monitored battles taking place across the entire system. All task forces report status, Walker ordered. Task Force Alpha has secured the outer planets, reported his tactical officer. Task Force Beta is engaging the Vex fleet at the 4th planet. Task Force Gamma has surrounded the Vex command station. Walker studied the 3-dimensional battle map, floating in the center of the command deck. Human ships moved in complex patterns that seemed chaotic, but were actually precisely coordinated. The Vex, in contrast, maintained rigid formations that were predictable and vulnerable. Begin final approach, Walker ordered. All ships, Weapons free. Across the battlefield, human vessels unleashed their full arsenal. Kinetic kill vehicles, basically giant metal rods, accelerated to speeds approaching that of light, carrying enough energy to punch through any shield. Directed energy weapons carved through Vex armor. Tactical nuclear devices created electromagnetic pulses that disrupted Vex coordination networks. The Dauntless led a group of 30 ships against a Vex defensive line. Captain Reed stood calmly on his bridge, issuing orders as his vessel shook. From enemy fire. Target their flagship, Reed commanded. All forward batteries fire when ready. The Dauntless's main guns fired simultaneously, sending 6 hypervelocity projectiles toward the Vex command ship. The impacts created explosions visible from planets away. On the Vex command station, High Lord Vax watched with growing horror as the defensive line collapsed. Entire ships were being destroyed faster than he could track. How is this possible? He demanded of Krell, who now served as his chief military advisor. Their species is barely 1,000 years into space travel. We have conquered 100 worlds. Krell, who had studied the humans more than any other Vex, had finally understood what they were facing. They evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day, he explained quietly. Where we developed technology to avoid competition, they developed technology through competition. Every weapon in their arsenal was first used against other humans before being turned outward. As the station's superstructure shuddered under another barrage, Vax made a decision that no High Lord had ever made before. Initiate surrender protocols, he ordered. The Dominion cannot withstand further losses. The ceasefire signal spread across Vex communication channels. Throughout the system, their warships powered down weapon systems and assumed non-threatening positions. On the bridge of the Dauntless, now scarred from multiple engagements, Captain Reed received the surrender transmission. Verify authenticity, he ordered, unwilling to risk a trap. Confirmed, sir, responded Commander Wilson. All Vex vessels are standing down. A moment of silence fell across the human fleet. Victory had been achieved, but at significant cost. Dozens of Earth ships had been destroyed or damaged beyond repair. Thousands of crew members had been lost. Reed turned to his communications officer. Signal Admiral Walker, the Vex have surrendered. 3 days later, representatives from 37 spacefaring civilizations gathered aboard the neutral diplomatic vessel, Promise of Dawn. The Galactic Council, having initially feared human military potential, now recognized they owed their continued existence to it. Ambassador Trell, speaking for the Council, addressed the assembled delegates. For too long, peaceful species have suffered under the expansion of aggressive empires. Today marks the beginning of a new era, one where the strong protect the vulnerable, rather than exploit them. Admiral Walker signed the peace treaty on behalf of Earth. The terms were straightforward. The Vex would withdraw from all conquered territories and pay reparations. In exchange, their homeworlds would remain sovereign. As the ceremony concluded, Walker found himself approached by a young Lumari diplomat. Your species frightens many in the galaxy, the diplomat said honestly. The way you fight, it's unlike anything we've seen before. Walker nodded in understanding. Humanity evolved in harsh conditions. We learned to fight before we learned to talk. Then why help us? The Lumari asked. You could have conquered the galaxy yourselves. Because we also learned something equally important, Walker replied. When to stop fighting. The true measure of strength isn't in conquest, it's in protection. 6 months later, Captain Reed stood on the observation deck of the newly established Earth Embassy on the Lumari homeworld. The Dauntless was docked at the orbital station above, undergoing repairs after the hard-fought campaign. Commander Wilson joined him, looking out at the alien city below. Hard to believe it's over, she said. The Vex were supposed to be unstoppable. Reed smiled slightly. Nothing is unstoppable when humans decide to get involved. True enough, Wilson agreed. But now comes the harder part. Peace? Reed asked. Wilson nodded. The galaxy has seen what we can do in war. Now they're watching to see what we'll do in peace. Reed considered this. Throughout human history, great military powers had often become conquerors. But Earth had chosen a different path. Their ships now patrolled former Vex territories not as occupiers, but as guardians. I think we'll surprise them, Reed said finally. We're good at that. Speaking of surprises, Wilson said, checking her tablet. New orders from command. The Dauntless is being assigned to lead a new task force. We're to establish a rapid response fleet at the borders of known space. Reed raised an eyebrow. Expecting more trouble? Just being prepared, Wilson replied. As Admiral Walker says, the best way to keep peace is to be very, very good at war. Reed nodded in agreement. Humanity had revealed its true military might to the galaxy, and that could never be undone. Some species would fear them. Others would seek their protection. But no one would ever again mistake humans for a weak or passive species. As he looked out at the alien sunset, Reed thought about Earth's new role in the galaxy. The Deathworlders had been called upon to help, and they had answered, not as conquerors, but as guardians. They had unleashed their fleet not to dominate, but to defend. In the years that followed, human warships became a common sight near vulnerable worlds and disputed territories. Their mere presence often prevented conflicts before they began. The us species that had evolved through conflict had found its true purpose, ensuring others could evolve without it. The galaxy had called for help, and the Deathworlders had answered. The end.